Now, I'd like to welcome Lintao, so LT Lu. He's a global executive, a successful entrepreneur, and a trailblazer in the industry. He was born in rural China during the Cultural Revolution and rose from poverty to lead international businesses, secure 7 US patents, and build industry-leading brands. Lu brings a rare global perspective to both business and mentorship. So welcome, LT.
Thank you, Rose, to have me.
Let's start with your book. So your book is called In Through the Window. If somebody remembered only one leadership lesson from that title, what would you hope it would be?
I would say when door is closed, go in through the window.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait, don't complain, go in through the window.
Don't accept the blockers.
Yeah, that's quite symbolic, right? That door and the window. Door is really, to me, is a conventional path. Is a straightforward advancement. Is expected recognition, and window is an alternative path. And I realized that the door is not opened equally for everyone. For someone, you can get straight through. For others, you have to wait. Yet, for some others, the door is closed, stapled, locked. You just have to find an alternative path. So that's the title. And I would say that's the main message of the book.
And has that philosophy changed over your career?
It's evolving all the times. And when I was young, is just driven for success, achievement, and at all expense. And really, Rose is work hard, but not that smart. And so as I learned, obviously, is through a lot of failure, detours, everything, and it made me smarter, wiser, if you will. And so you are not just work hard, you try to work smarter. You are not just work on the things, and also try to become the best of who you are. You are not just to achieve your own success, but also you try to help other people to succeed. Yeah, so it changes. I use an example like you're climbing a mountain. At the very bottom, when you start your climb, one scenario, when you get in the middle of mountain, you see another view. And then when you are on the top, completely different picture.
I really love that. I work with leaders, particularly at the moment, around political intelligence. And that's one of the metaphors that I use about how far you can see. So when you're at ground level, you can see what you can see. And then as you rise up in altitude, you get to see more and more of the picture.
Absolutely.
So your story obviously begins long before your career, and it began in hardship. So I'd love it if you could share a little bit about that with the audience, and also about how those experiences shaped your leadership as you found yourself growing a career later on, how you look back on it and went, there are things there that really shaped the leader that I am today.
Yeah, I don't wish this hardship or that poverty, adversity to anyone. And when I tell my niece and my nephew what happened to my generation, they just cannot believe it. It's actually happened just a half century ago in the same country in China. And China was a very backward country. And particularly, I was born into a period that cultural revolution, that's political madness, and the economy is completely in the destroyed everything. So it is, I would say, Rose is one of toughest, hardest period in Chinese history. So I will not dwell on all this hardship like hunger, everything is literally is you don't have enough food to eat, no electricity, no running water, and no hospital actually in the area. So a lot of these modern amenities, some comfort, young generation just take for granted. In my generation at that time is a luxury, is something like you dreamed of. It is only like a half century, 50 years, but two dramatic, completely different world. So that one, obviously, you can tell I wrote in a book, and that is one of the defining things for me. People can think this is poverty and hardship, but I always see more than that is really the dignity. I wrote a story in my book that I never wear a new clothes until I was 10 years old. And then my mother bought the clothes, hand sew a new shirt for me, stay late, and did that because we had almost nothing. But she wanted her son to stand on the stage with dignity. So this is really a lesson. Chinese people, saving face, everything, not necessarily. You look deeper into that, is really you see the human dignity. There is very much human, their self-respect. So that's really make me realize the poverty is a condition, the dignity is a choice. So that really carries me throughout of my entire life.
I really like that philosophy, the idea that dignity is a choice no matter what our circumstances. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. In your book, you come back repeatedly to the idea that resilience isn't just about enduring difficulties, about responding creatively to it. And I'm finding in the work that I do that many leaders today are almost teetering on the edge of burnout. They're exhausted rather than resilient. So talk me through what resilience means for you.
Resilience, I think, is not something that you were born with. These something's developed. This also something's developed through the hardship, and it developed gradually. This is, I use example, I used to that animal, you honey badger. This little small animal, but it's very resilient. It fight with lion. It whatever. It's fearless. So how that honey badger can do that? Because it has a very thick and loose skin. In the picture, right? Lion bite on these things, but guess what? Its body just come back because it's loose skin and bite back. So that thick skin that was developed over many years of evolution, they have survived many of these attacks. So developed that things. In my book, I wrote as a salesman, you need to have a thick skin. As a matter of fact, when I was young, I have very thin skin. But the circumstances, the things you have to promote yourself. And then when I become from engineer, become a salesman, that I was forced to sell the things. If you are hungry for a couple of days, you forget all this saving phase, or you don't have this delicate of feeling. You just won't do whatever to get the sales. So this is back to your question. Yes, the resilience is something developed. The also a lot of this burnout, exhaustion, everything is very much is. I had that when I was young. I had that problem as well. Is their life is out of balance. They're probably try too hard while they're not ready, maybe too impatient. So this is something that when they become more resilient, they can certainly can handle better the rejections and the challenges.
What are there daily disciplines that you still practice around resilience?
These are daily things. I think you always if you are challenged with new things, you always have some fear after your comfort zone. But that's how you grow. If you stay in comfort, you will not grow. Sometimes you have to force yourself. You will eventually will become your habit. If you're doing enough times, it will start becoming your habit and start become your character. And obviously, resilience is a character. I may say, the character is not formed in a week, in 2 weeks. It's formed during a long process. You repeat it many times and try daily basis. So I would say be fearless, take challenges, and it will make you going through that process. It will make you more resilient gradually.
Yeah, it's be like the honey badger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you've led organisations across China, across Europe, and the United States. Obviously, working in different cultures is going to be different nuances, but what have the different cultures taught you about leadership that you think many leaders are never going to discover because they only work in one country?
Yeah, I would consider me more like a bridge of East and West.
Mhm.
Is I noticed that when you work in, particularly in multinational organizations, you need to take the best of both sides because each civilization and each cultures won't have all the truth. It's like a coin. I used to be a coin, right? You have a face and the back, like yin and the yang. For any individual like that, you have your strength, your weakness, and also this is quite relative. This strength in certain circumstances may become a weakness. That's really the yin and the yang. Is constantly changing, is dynamic. So to me, the balance is the key. Depend on circumstances, depend who you work with, what specific task at hand. And working in international companies, particularly US and China, these two cultures are dramatically different or diametrically different. You think about this oath, we have a 12 hours difference. Basically, China is daytime, here is nighttime. Very much like that. Europe more in the middle, and then a couple of US and China joint venture or the global team mostly consisted of US, China. And these two have you sometimes if you're not aware of these things, easily you have this cultural clash. Like as US person, you're very much straightforward and you speak your mind, like people used to say, think out loud. They think out loud because they're just talking while they're thinking. But in Chinese, they think before speak. This is completely different. So American way to Chinese, that's how it's too rude, too straight. And Chinese is more reserved. And then for US counterpart, they will consider that, it's not transparent. Is there? They have something to hide. It looks like too sneaky and not straightforward. So this is some things, and I saw all that things in the middle, live in both world, China and the US. So I see the each side, and a lot of my success is because that perspective, because that duality, I can put these things together.
When working in those different cultures, what leadership behaviours have you seen that seem universal? So we've talked about some of the differences. What are the things that are quite similar?
Very much, I think humanity is absolutely the things, whatever the organization. I keep telling my team, business, people say, hey, business is business. Yes, business is business. You're making money, you're making profit, whatever. But business is about people. After all, business is about people. Your customer, your people serving the customer. People getting order. People solve the problem. I used to tell my team all the time, happy employee make happy customer. And happy customer make happy shareholder. So that is, I think, a human-central humanity. We're all brothers sisters in that sense. I very much consider myself a global citizen, although I know it's not inefficient. Globalization now looks in reverse. But think about it. We have this little tiny earth. That's our home. You use a big view, right? How many of this world humanity, like such a wonder, hardly people searching for many years have not found another place like Earth. We're so unique, and we're all in this sense together. So yeah, I think that surely the humanity is global.
Now, one of the things that you discussed in the book was around being an outsider. And certainly moving from culture to culture, it would feel like that. When I was a child, we used to travel a lot. We used to live in different countries. And I know what it's like to turn up to a new school, not speaking the language, not fitting in, and so on. Do you think that being an outsider has made you a better leader?
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. And again, as a human being, you always seek for belonging. And this outsider always give you that feeling, do I belong and how can I fit in? And in the primitive age, if you are not belong to that tribe, you probably will be eaten by a lion. So this kind of anxiety, fear, you talk about exhaustion, everything is sometimes really try to fit in. And you feel you will criticize for what the reason, right or wrong. You're rejected because the opportunity, you only have so much opportunities. Like this department, you have that promotions. You have multiple candidates for that. Is so this is that the I lost your question. Maybe you say that again, Rose.
It was about, has being an outsider made you a better leader? And
Okay, yeah,
I think
that
it's
that
tying back to the belonging piece. I think around, certainly for me, I think that if somebody feels like an outsider, they're probably more likely to spend time and energy engaging with people and bringing them in and noticing when people are being excluded and so on. Is that true for you?
Yeah, also it comes that everything you look at that there's two sides of things, and the being outsiders, the advantage is obviously you try to fit in, so you will try harder. If you try harder, normally you will dig out something deeper, right? You will find some things that otherwise you won't be able to do. But I think its big advantage for outsider is different angle, just outside from out of box. That's the thing, is it will not take a conventional things, because if you are in group too long, they tend to have group thinking. People all think all align. People say align, yes, is right the word, right? But how much align you want to be aligned? Sometimes you have a dissident voice. All these things will really make you wake you up, have different perspective, have a contest, have some competition. And so this is, I think, outside is open-mindedness and unconventional thinking, particularly for the new world. You talk about innovation, everything. That's the key to the business success. If you just me too, the success is not very much, but the fresh look of the things that lead the new innovations in business.
Agreed. Now, you refer to yourself almost as a wise uncle rather than a commanding executive, and I love that. What does that look like for you? If you think of that as a leadership philosophy, what would you say about it?
Yeah, these I think there are a couple of implications. Wise uncle, the what I try to pass along is number one is the family things. This is uncle, that this is all family probably a little, but at least at the NAVAC, we like that. We call us like a family. We see is NAVAC nation, actually. That's what we call. And so we do have, because we share a common goal. In that sense, we work together. Actually, more appropriate will be the team. So this is one thing is family things. What's the family things? Compassion, tolerance, understanding, love. This is very much is lacking because now business side is very hard and hard. But soft things is go a long way. A lot of things is because the internal fictions, everything's misunderstanding, lack of empathy, lack of compassion, or that's the family things, the warmth and the human side of the things, uncle side, and the wise that do things smart, right? Not just work hard, but have different perspective and have like now more than two, right? AI, a lot of the advanced things, learn the new skill, how to use the leverage. So this is something I would say to the wise uncle why I use this term.
Now, one of the things we see in organisations today is people feeling like they need to be completely ready before they act on things. Do you think that as culturally in organisations, we've become too risk averse?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the guy always use the slogan from Nike, just do it. And this is, and also in my book, I have a sentence. This is from Tao Te Ching, this Chinese ancient book, is take the first step. The 1,000 miles journey begins with a single steps. Because you can plan out, you can think about, you can analysis or paralysis or whatever. This at the end, you still have to take actions. And also nowadays the things change so quickly. And a lot of hesitation in essence is really their lack of courage or they don't want to take the ownership. They don't want to take a risk, fear of failure. So yeah, that's the thing. Rose. Bless for you. Yeah. So this is that's how I see it.
Yes. Now, your career has included engineering, innovation, and entrepreneurship. How do you balance analytical thinking with intuition when you've got to make important decisions?
That's the big transitions, Rose. And I was engineer by training, and I have a long career in engineering. Started from engineering and engineering manager, director, VP, and all the way to a CTO of a New York stock listed company. And this, so you become very precise, like 1 + 1 = 2. And but that formula won't apply. For example, in the sales, in the marketing, it's not that precise, and the sales or the human being is not that precise. So a lot is not 1 + 1 = 2. For example, you talk about corporate merge acquisition. If you see 1 + 1 = 2, it's wrong. You should search for 1 + 1 = 3, the synergy, right? That in Wall Street is completely different things. You would think 1 + 1 = 10. It's highly leveraged. So it's all different places, ask for different formula. And actually, I learned very hard lessons. And when I elevated to VP and the CTO's level, but at that time, I still thinking like an engineer. I remember when we have a air conditioning unit, the filter on the back did not look as neat as straight. There's some weaving things. I want to get this fixed. Stop production, all these things, and it really get me in big trouble with management because later on, although later on I found out, because we are really under heavy stress to deliver on time for a major account. So this is something you have to have a different perspective. You're not in your position, you're not looking from your own perspective. You need to think what your boss is think about. And from engineering, you really need to think what the sales guy think about that. What's repairman think about my design. So you need to think from different perspective, from other side, to look not just ahead, to purely from engineering perspective.
I like that, thinking about what your boss is thinking about. I think that's a powerful leadership lesson for a lot of people, actually. It's not just thinking at your level, but also what are the concerns of the people above you and around you. So I really like that. Now, you talk about finding opportunity where others see obstacles. What does that opportunity recognition actually look like in practice?
To me, Rose, opportunity is abound, is everywhere. And depending on how you look at that, even the adversity, you can view that as an opportunity, as to make you better, to test you, because without test, you don't know how good you are. So that there's a story that you read in the book. They do the market research. They send someone to a new territory, a shoe manufacturer, and that guy get to there, report back. They say, "Wow, that there no people wear shoes. They're all barefooted. There's no market." And guess what? Another sales guy go to there, and he see the exact same thing, but a completely different perspective. They say, "Wow, here is huge market. Nobody wear the shoes. That is huge potential market." So what do you see? Are you seeing that just from surface that currently nobody wear the shoe, or beyond that? Going what you want to see. You want to see a couple years later, many of these people start wearing the shoes. So that's the perspective, and that's you see exact same pictures, but have two entirely different interpretation.
Can you train people to think that way? And if you can, how would you go about doing that?
Just open-minded, be more flexible, be humble. Don't assume you are expert and you know it all. As a matter of fact, even human being as a species, compared to the universe, this is 13.8 billion years, right? The humanity just lost the second in this entire things. And you think about individual life is just maybe 1 second of that. So from that perspective, you think about that we really, there are so many things, there are many more unknown to us than what we know. This is be open-minded, be humble. And to me, even at my age, I always try to learn new things and always learning new things. And this is like nowadays get into fashion, like a learning organization, it's very much true. And you can always getting better and getting smarter, wiser.
Now, you've built businesses and you've led global teams. When you think about hiring future leaders, what qualities are you looking for perhaps now that wouldn't have mattered to you perhaps 20 years ago?
Yeah, I always look for someone is highly motivated, someone is with drive, someone wants to accomplish something. And I used to joke that is from a red book of sales, Jeffrey Gatomo. He said, you will hire someone, you will hire a PhD. The PhD is not advanced degree, is not philosophy, doctor of philosophy, but the P is poor, H is hungry, and the D is driven. So that's the drive. And because I still have that drive since I was a child. Yeah, I still have this drive. So that's the things. Obviously, you need a skill, you need education, you need experience. That's to me is a table set. But that spirit, that motivation, or you achieve something, this is not something that training can do that for you. So I told my manager, hire someone highly motivated and then inspire them to achieve the great things.
It goes back to the old saying about hire for attitude and train for skill. You've got to hire the right
Yeah.
person with the right attitude and the right attributes. When you think about ambitious young leaders that you see coming through business, what do you think is the biggest mistake they're making?
They try too hard to pull themselves sometimes and see the young LT and try too hard and sometimes actually is counterproductive and obviously lack of patience. And because the great things is not achieved overnight, it takes times. Take one step times is take patience, resilience, you failure, and then you try again, and you be down, you stand up. That again is easy say, and sometimes you just have to go in through that process.
So let's talk about success. So you talk about success not just being about achievement, but being about becoming someone. Has that definition of success changed over time for you?
Success to me is everyone has success to me is very personal. Everyone has their own ruler. And it's like a beauty in the eye of beholder. And for some people, maybe as president, as CEO, and for others, can be a raise the child, contribute to the community. So for many, it's like money, fame, status. But to me, the success is really to become the best version of yourself. We're all born to our history. We're all born to our own circumstances. And I use me as an example. If you use the conventional sense where I am, yes, I attended a certain success, but many people in that matter is much, much more successful than me. And however, I view that where I come from very low. I use in my book, I use the metaphor of monarchia. Monarchia looks like a 4,000 meters, right? You think about Mount Everest is twice as tall. However, what's the tallest mountains is not Mount Everest, is Monarchia. If you think about it, has another 5,000 meter beneath sea level. So the dry height or total height from sea, it's not from sea level, from the bottom of the ocean is not over 9,000 meters. So that's the thing is to me, for example, I claim that barely get into the sea levels. If you look at it, just sea level is not very much success, but I have already climbed a long journey. So it's all relative. And you just compare to yourself. I think you are not really compared to others. The best one to tell how successful or how satisfied, the best judge is yourself, is nobody else.
I love that. That's very powerful, isn't it? Now, is there a leadership belief that maybe you held strongly earlier in your career that you don't believe anymore?
Uh, yeah, I think one of the things is hard work, particularly born in China, is always, hey, if you work hard enough, you will always, you will be taking care of that. And the war is fair, and you pay that, what you get, you paid for. And that is not true. The war is not fair, and the hard work may not always pay off. So this is that the war is much more complicated than the society or than some of our leaders or than our parents sometimes to teach us. Because this is very colored by the society, by the mentality of crowd. Right? This war or this society function has certain logic. but may not fit into every individual.
I totally agree with that. I've actually got another podcast for women leaders, and the theme for the season we're working on at the moment is all around that good work is not always enough. We've been conditioned to believe when we're children that if through school, for example, if you work hard, you get good grades, you get results. And then the workplace just isn't like that. It's one of those things where it's often a rude shock for people to suddenly realise that they can work really hard and be very good at their job and very competent, but it doesn't always equal success because it's other rules at play. Now, if listeners could practice one leadership habit, say starting tomorrow, that would genuinely change their careers, what would you suggest?
Rose, I would see reflection. Use your head. Think about the things. And I went through a lot of hardship and some of life-threatening circumstances. I saved myself, and only I can save myself in those type of circumstances, how I went through, because I think things through. I had enough determination to not panic and to think things through. I think the most wonderful things of as a human is our big brain. And that's the wonder. And we have free choice. We can make a misery a learning opportunity. We can turn the hardship, adversity into an opportunity. We can learn from any circumstances, from success, from the failure. But the things you have to think about it. You have to think that through. The wisdom, all these things is not just happen that just you experience hardship and then you get it. It need to be a painful experience, trigger you really to think about it, to reflect on that, and it become your own things. So thinking, reflection.
That's very powerful. Now, is there anything that you'd like to leave the listeners with as a final thought?
I would say, don't give up hope. I call that my window, going through the window, is a philosophy of hope, a philosophy of transformation. The hope is not hope that the things will work out, is not just a purely a positive thinking, but the hope is even the things is not working out, you can still find a way. If the door is closed, go in through the window.
Thank you. LT, thank you very much. For the listeners, I'm going to put the links in the show notes for the book, to buy the book on Amazon, and also ways to get in touch with LT. You can find him on LinkedIn, and the link will be in the show notes. So thank you again. It's been a really great interview. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rose.